Welcome to the Consulting Leaders Podcast, where we talk about the business of consulting. Whether you're looking to grow your practice or learn from the stories of leaders in consulting, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Guillaume Jouvencel, ex-PwC and co-founder of GHA Marketing. Join me as I interview the best consultants in their niche. Let's get on with the show. Paul, welcome to Consulting Leaders. Happy to have you.
Happy to be here. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you.
It is my pleasure. Let's jump straight into it. What got you into consulting and transformation work in the first place, Paul?
Well, I certainly did not have an intentional career. I've got a degree in computer science. I always joke, when I was doing programming, they were still using punch cards. So it was a long time ago. But
I don't even know what that is.
There you go.
To be honest.
So before we had keyboards and monitors, believe it or not. So you'd put a stack of code, every piece of paper, every card was a line of code into a giant computer. And if it was wrong, it would come back out and tell you did it wrong, try again. So
no way.
We're a lot more efficient today. But my first job out of college, I was working for a company that made statistical process control software. So I was manufacturing quality improvement type work. And when I was a student, I never had much time for process, like make a process map. I'm like, I could make a picture in my head. Why would I do that? I wanted to get to the code or the algorithm, as they say today. And then once I had clients, I started realizing, wow, this process thing is how work actually gets done, how value gets created. And all the different buzzwords of the day, whether it was total quality management or process reengineering, they all came down to, do you have a good process for serving the customer? So I made that my focus, and that's why we launched Orion.
And what problem do you solve now? Because obviously you're not helping people write code on punch cards. By the way, do you know that I looked it up right away, right? Punch card. And now it just seems to be something for kids to write on to say what belongs to whom. It's to say how things change. Sorry, I'm digressing.
That's all right.
What problem do you solve now, Paul?
Well, the great thing about process improvement work is you can address all sorts of problems. Simple efficiency matters within a department, that cross-functional cooperation, sort of the cross-functional value chain of core processes. How do we make people work better together? So we're focused on the end result, not optimizing what we do in our area, but not doing collaboratively good work for the customer. Could even get into strategic planning and cross-functional organizational management. Interestingly enough, most of what people ask us to do is just basic process documentation work. The world has changed so much, and everything's has existed in everyone's head. I just know how I do the job, and I explain it to someone else. That with all the changes post-pandemic, more people working remotely, technology changing, interfaces changing, a lot of companies are saying, hey, let's just take a step back and figure out actually how we do the work, get rid of these like 18 different variations for doing one job, and just have a nice, clear process that we can build on. And that's been most of the work that I've done the last few years. I mean, if you asked me 20 years ago, do you do much process documentation work? I'd always be like, well, that's a stepping stone to something else. It's kind of boring compared to the big transformations. But that's the number one thing people want now. Whether they're moving towards AI or just trying to figure out how they should work, they want to start with that basic foundation. So first, the tools we started with when I started the company in 1993 are what people are asking us for right now.
Do you have a specific... Okay, I have two follow-up questions. So I have the niche question, but I see how process improvement can be applied kind of everywhere. And when I'm thinking about back when I was a consultant myself, that's what we were doing. Basically, any consultant is a process improvement consultant in a way, right? I was a finance and treasury consultant, and we were helping finance and treasury teams have better processes, better systems, smoother operations, and so on and so forth. But so when you're a process improvement consultant, do you have a specific niche, industry, field that you're helping people into? Or how do you decide who you work with?
Well, for most of our history, we were very fortunate that in addition to being consultants, we're professional development instructors. So universities around the United States would hire us to teach business process management to professionals, not to undergraduates. So we were teaching at one point in 50 different markets. So one of my first big name clients was Toyota Motor Sales, and they saw us in teaching at Pepperdine in Los Angeles. And then they called New York, and they were like, wow, these guys are good. They could really help us. So then we ended up doing consulting work for them. And at the time, Orion was small. We were on top of a surf shop. That's where our office was in Rockaway Beach. So we used to joke, there's no way Toyota's calling the kid over the surf shop, but they saw us in action. But that also meant anywhere we taught, we could be teaching government, we could be teaching healthcare, we could be teaching manufacturing, service jobs, Delta Airlines, Coca-Cola. So we had all sorts of, we've had a diverse experience. Since you don't have as many of those in-person professional development courses, we've had to become a little more focused. So on niches, so state and local government work, and and financial work, and financial work not necessarily tied to ERP systems and line of business work, but I think those are the main three drivers for us, of niches, if you will.
I love this. Then my follow-up question to this follow-up answer is, how do you market that? Like, what has worked for you, Paul, to attract the right decision makers? Mm-hmm. Maybe before that, actually, who are the decision makers? Who is it that you need to get into the room with?
Well, here's where I'm old enough, mature enough, whatever the right word is, to tell you when I don't know things. And back in the 1990s, the early 2000s, life was much simpler because we did so much marketing of these professional development programs, and people still used good old-fashioned direct mail. I was very good at determining which industry segments we should focus on, which levels in the organization, company sizes. I had really good formulas for that. And we would just throw money in the mail and it would come back to us. The phone would ring. Obviously, we have so many more channels now. And I think over time, maybe 5-6 years ago, we started becoming too dependent on Google Ads because everyone was just doing search. So we were very good at organic SEO for a long time, but then it became harder. Because in our business, IBM might not be our direct competitor, but if they're selling software and they're using the same keywords, we're struggling, for space. So we started putting more and more effort into Google AdWords, and Google Ads just for us, they don't work at all anymore, because now you've got the AI component on top, and there's very little room for organic search. So this is the question you asked is a question I'm trying to figure out 33 years into my business. I mean, obviously can't go back to doing direct mail like I did in 1995, but that's been the most difficult change, harder than any of my real work, working with clients, is how do I get these stories in front of people who need our services?
So, I'm gonna, not that I'm gonna push back here, but kind of. It's so funny because we are in the day and age of AI. Right, everybody knows it. Everybody's talking about it. Blah blah blah, and a lot of people are trying to create urgency around. Hey, you need to adopt AI. Like you need to adopt it, otherwise something bad is going to happen. Whatever that is, and that's fine. That makes sense. But I can't help but think. I'm convinced that some people still do business today, sending mails via the post, like. To the question, is there absolutely no one making money right now sending written letters? I can't answer, no, there is no one. I'm sure there is someone in the world making money with this. And it's so funny. Like, we get people to send emails, like manually, and this gets results. So I think you could potentially still do written letters. It would probably not be as efficient as doing one of the latest marketing ways, whatever is the shiny object lately. But yeah, it's an interesting way of doing business. So how do you do them? How do clients find you? You would know this at least, probably, right?
Well, some people still find us through a website. One of the major
SEO.
Universities in the Midwest has some big challenges, and they liked our website, called us up a couple of weeks ago, so that's great. We still have, we've been in business for a long time, so we still have thousands of contacts. So email still works for us in developing in those areas. And then you mentioned niches. So one really small niche that we work in is public pension systems. So this is like if you work in the state of Ohio and you work for the state police or you work for the state university, you're paying into the pension system there. There's like 80 of those organizations in the United States. We've done a lot of work in that space. So we just finished a seminar that was, we did it online. So it was 5 half-day components on kind of a soup to nuts of if you're doing business process improvements, here's where you start, here's where you finish. Wasn't going to great depth because it was only 2.5 days worth of total content. But everyone in that room got a great learning experience, but they're all prospects. They're telling us which projects they're going to work on, new IT projects. They're having trouble with their applications. So those will all be, working with a small number. We're not talking about working with 1,000 and hoping you close what percent. We're talking, somewhere between 10 and 20 people, but we have a good shot at turning 3 or 4 of those into clients.
Love this. How do you turn those into clients? What's your process to go from someone visiting the website and liking what they see, or someone getting referred, or whatever the way people get to you? But how do you move from that to a conversation, a sales conversation, an SOW, a letter of engagement? We rock and roll. What does sales motion look like for you?
I think we struggle at the beginning of the pipeline because all these various channels we're not as good at as we were, in the past. Once we're in a conversation where someone expressed interest, and I think this just helps having done this for so long, is we are very, very good at understanding the business need. It's not just, I mentioned process documentation as one particular work product. It's not about putting the boxes and line segments on paper. It's like, what are they going to do with that afterwards? Is it for training? Is it for efficiency? Is it for an IT implementation? So that affects how we do the work, but it also helps us in the communication of understanding the long-term value. So people appreciate that, and then it gives them more confidence in working with us that we get the big picture. And then because we're process folks, because we work with diagrams all the time, it's very easy for us to map out for them, here are the services that we want to present to you, with a nice flow chart and a good clear breakdown of saying you'll really understand how we're going to help you, and you really know that we understand where you're going with this. And I think that gets people from, hey, we're a credible company, to, wow, these are the people we want to work with.
I like that. How do you, so in consulting, from my experience and the very little I know, you grow a business when you're able to acquire clients consistently, via whatever marketing channel, potentially post. But then when you're also able to retain those clients. So for you, Paul, can you tell us a bit more about how you transform one engagement into another and into another and into another? Not just to, keep on charging the clients, but also to keep on providing value, identifying the next problem, identifying the next process that needs optimization and transformation. How do you do that? How do you retain?
Well, and I think my answer is counterintuitive on the surface. We tell our clients we're going to make them self-sufficient, and we work hard at that. So let's just say they want to have an internal team of people who are their continuous improvement experts. We'll train them really well. We'll coach them, facilitate them, so they really are experts and can do the job. And then we can walk away knowing they're able to do what we would do if we were on the inside. And the positive results from that and the trust that we've got in the organization as a whole means that they're probably going to bring us back in the future, because they can do the things that they asked us to do, what they imagine they would need to have done, the types of problems they would want to have solved. But if they're going to put a new IT system, if someone says we need to reorganize, look at the structure of the organization, how our cross-functional value chains work, they're going to come back to us because they trust us to not only do a good job, but to make them successful and be able to successful in their own right. I think our longest client relationships, that's really the common factor, where we left there and the guys on my team, I always joke, I don't do any real work because I'm the managing partner. But the guys I worked with for decades, when we have to leave an engagement that we're there for a year and a half, and we're really working closely with people, it's almost like they're letting their kids go off to school or get out in the world. You're moving out. They're so worried that they're not going to be able to do well, and they do. And but those are the organizations. Like one of them is this Michigan Office of Retirement Services. We worked with them in the year 2000, and the systems we put in place there are still fundamental to their success 26 years later. They're still managing using a variation. They've evolved a variation on the org structure we created. But over time, as new people have come into the organization, they said, hey, bring Orion back for the training. Or if they've had, a new technology challenge, it's like, let's bring Paul's guys back in here. We need to this is a critical point in our ongoing development. So we've made them self-sufficient, but when, new bigger challenges, we know we're the go-to resource because they trust us.
That doesn't sound counterintuitive at all. I think this is, no, but in the sense of, I think that the job of a consultant is to eventually fire themselves from the clients. Now,
I agree.
A great consultant will solve a problem and then point at the problem that solving the previous one created and how they can help them. And because the value was there, it makes sense to continue with the next one. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're kind of flying through this interview, Paul. So let me throw a little bit of a curveball question at you. Okay. What's your number one challenge right now? What's the one nut that you're trying to crack that once you crack, you're gonna take the whole thing to the next level? And you cannot answer how do we get people to go back to mailing via the post. No. That's not possible.
Here, I have two answers. One on the marketing side. One is how do we have so many great success stories that we don't tell people, and because we've lost the mechanism and the channels. And I think that's key. If people, see Orion, see what we do, hear from our clients, word of mouth from our clients works great, in the old-fashioned sense. But we need more inputs into our pipeline. That's one. On the input side of customers, I think from a service perspective, it's what you touched on earlier. Everyone's saying everything's AI. I think it might have been before we started recording, we were talking about Star Trek. So Star Trek, The Next Generation, you have that character Data, the android. Because I'm a Star Trek geek, that's artificial intelligence. Most of what people are talking about is not artificial intelligence by my definition. It's some form of automation. Sometimes it's advanced automation. So, a couple of years ago, they were calling it robotic process automation, a label that was kind of crummy, didn't stick, but it was like, okay, we can program things where instead of having your people sort of do manual things and inputs on the screen or capturing things off the screen, we'll do that for you. Things that weren't possible before. It's just new automation of electronic information as opposed to physical things. And breaking down what people are calling AI into a few different buckets of saying, all right, you're calling this AI, but fine, I don't care about the label. Here's the challenge you need to solve to do this right so that it actually has value to you. Whether that's making sure you have good inputs, making sure you're giving the system good input so it has, a process to follow properly. I think that learning curve amid all the noise, when everyone's screaming AI, is my challenge as a thought leader, if you will.
Oh my God, there is so many things I want to follow up on and double down on here. Paul, so
let me just add to that really briefly.
Please.
Since we've been in this business more than 3 decades, new ideas come along. They're not always brand new, but they have value. It was ISO and 30 years ago. More recently, business analysis when that was a big thing, and then customer experience. And there's people just start beating those terms around so much that it causes kind of confusion in the marketplace. So even when a couple of times we've said we really figured this out, and this is on the training side of our business, and we'll say we could actually teach people how to make this customer experience stuff work, and not just be a marketing angle, but also how does that tie back to your process, to your operations? And a lot of times people are just so overwhelmed, or they're still trying to figure out what it is for years. It takes a while for the market to catch up to understand, all right, here's what we should be doing. And that's a challenge that kind of goes with that. How do we get through the noise? Because it's noise for the customers too, because they're trying to figure out what all this means.
Okay, so you're giving me even more to follow up on and double down on, Paul. So thanks, not making my job easier here. But I think, so what you just said here is so valuable. I think not enough people are conscious of it, and maybe potentially even guilty of it. What do I mean by that? You're right. Anybody can claim anything on the internet nowadays. That's actually the Olympic sport, the new Olympic sport, if you ask me. Like, everybody is regurgitating content from ChatGPT on LinkedIn. Everybody is even experimenting with like AI video avatars and so on. The thing is that in a day and age where anybody can claim anything on the internet, people doubt whether something is AI or not. I mean, I could be an AI avatar of the real Guillaume here talking. Who knows? I'm not. We need a safe word to be able to tag that. My point being, if you find a way to come across and actually be authentic, true, genuine, all whilst delivering that valuable educational content, helping out your ICP and your clients, talking to them, you're gonna win. That's my assumption. And yeah, then the second thing that you mentioned is the shiny object, right? It's like, we are in a day and age where everything is accelerating so much. I had a guest say the other day that they used to listen to a lot of audiobooks to get their business education, but they're like, now, in 3 months, books are getting obsolete, except in the cases where the author has made sure that this would be, eternal, so not touching upon concepts that are linked to today's technology, but that's hard. And finding truth and meaning in all that noise and identifying the real opportunity is the other way that people are going to win in 2026 and beyond. On the other side of the coin, what do you see as the biggest opportunity for you? Like, what's the one thing that you're looking forward to work on in the next 6 months that you're excited about?
I'm going to split it between something new and something old. The new being what we just talked about, the AI. If I'm getting towards the end of my career, if we can really help people, point people in the right direction, that'd be a nice exclamation point for the work we've done over the last 30 years, and say, okay, this was the next big thing, and we really help people understand what they, how this can really help them and what they should be doing. That would be exciting, from a kind of a career ego perspective, to be able to help in that part of the journey. And then the other thing is just kind of an ongoing passion, because my background, my distant background, is in computer science, and I was a process skeptic to begin with, because that's just kind of how we were trained back in the day on the IT side. It pains me to watch when companies spend tens of millions of dollars putting in SAP or PeopleSoft or Oracle or whatever the system is, and then operational performance plummets because there's this big gap between what the processes do and what the technology is attempting to do. And we still, whenever we work on projects like that, and we're working on one right now, actually, for a German company, their US arm. It's full circle for me, so it still fulfills some of my original promise in the world, even though I don't do the tech work, but making that tech work actually deliver the business value.
So, because we are doubling down on this, how are you thinking of both solving that challenge of like, what do we do in the day and age of AI, and leveraging it at the same time? It's not to put you on the spot here, Paul. It's more, I think this is a challenge that 99% of the consultants listening to us right now will be facing as well. The remaining 1% are people who are not aware that this is a challenge they need to solve for as well. But I think it's always interesting to hear from your peers how they are thinking about solving a problem that you're yourself facing. So, and I know you won't have the perfect answer because it wouldn't be a challenge if you did. But how are you thinking about solving this? Like, how are you thinking about approaching this specific problem?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, there are the two things that I talk about overlap because at least there's technology and a process component that in both. But when it comes to the AI, and I've overloaded my hard drive with research in different areas, and I think breaking it down into a few different use cases that people can understand, and then building the services around those is the path that we're on at Orion. I can't really describe what it looks like because we're, it's going to take us a couple of months to get there to really figure it out. But as I said, I think what people are calling AI fits into 3 or 4 useful buckets. So then what does that really mean in terms of from the user's perspective, from the business perspective? If we're doing this and we're successful, not only what are the results that we're getting, what are the components that really make it work and be sustainable? So like I said, break it down into some use cases, really look at the process and the people and the organizational and the culture dynamics and challenges that come with it, and build a path and services around each of those.
Paul King, ladies and gentlemen. Paul, if people want to find out more about you, see what you do, where should they go?
All right. Well, our website is actually, if you go to OD Group, O as in Oscar, D as in David, group.com, that's our old website. It'll forward to our current one, which is a longer name, which is businessprocessmgmt.com. We
will put all the links in the description. Do you have a LinkedIn channel as well? Do you have a LinkedIn profile?
I have a LinkedIn profile, but I tell you, I don't put much up on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah. We have a YouTube channel, but I can't even tell you what's on that. It's probably about 20 videos.
Tells you everything you need to know. Cool. We'll put the link of the website in the show notes. And I'm trying to find. So I found OD Group. I think that's another one. Making successful space in London in LinkedIn. So that's probably not it. So we won't put that link in. Right. Paul, thank you so much for coming on Consulting Leaders.
I'm grateful for the opportunity and I enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Leaders Podcast. We hope you learned valuable lessons on how to grow your practice and take your business to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this show so you never miss an episode. To apply and be a guest on the show, click the link in the description. See you next time.